Hi everyone, Zed Amoroso. Welcome back to Tag Talk. Today I want to talk to you about a company called Gurucul. It's a company that's been around a little while. They do user behavior analytics. They've kind of moved into security analytics and security automation. So I want to give you a little bit of insight, not just into the company, but into this area, this idea of doing behavior analytics. Now here's where it sort of started. I remember a paper many, many years ago, gosh, probably 40 years ago, from Dorothy Denning, who was then I don't remember where she was. She was in some academic place, and she wrote this paper about comparing behaviors against audit trails, and it was the beginning of what I think has become not just an idea but a whole industry around determining if in behavior I can identify patterns that might be indicative of some security problem. So that grew into this idea that maybe I can define signatures. That was the first idea. Come up with signatures, look for a pattern of behavior. Like if I say, oh my gosh, if I see a big file transfer after midnight, that's a behavior that's suspicious. Those signatures became sort of the first level of behavior analytics. From that, we moved into maybe more profile based, where I thought, I'll just sort of in aggregate watch what I think is more or less normal. And if I see a deviation from the norm, I'm maybe not predicting exactly what I'm looking for, but a deviation from the norm, that became sort of the next generation. And now we use AI. Now we really try and learn, collect a lot of data about behavior, and then try to learn patterns that might be indicative of problems. So that's a vibrant area. Gurucul's been at this for a while. I like the company, good leadership there. I particularly like the idea that they've grown organically through business. Like this is not one of the sort of high flying VC funded companies that has this big debt to pay off. They look like a very well run, very solid company. So first off, I think I would say that, if you're looking for UBA, they'd be a good option. And what they're doing is similar to what a lot of others in this industry are doing, and that's sort of moving into adjacent areas. I mentioned earlier that they might be doing some work in SIM area. So let me lay out 3 points here that I think are going to be important with respect to both Gurucul and any UBA that you might be looking at. First off, I would say this is something you should be doing. So if you're in the enterprise and you've got predictable behavior or even unpredictable behavior somewhere in your ecosystem, having some sense of collecting data and determining if there's indicators in there of weird behavior, I think it's a wise kind of activity and a wise tool to drop into your enterprise. So I strongly recommend that. Second thing is I think that the UBA or UEBA, the E meaning entity, should be integrated. It should be part of the fabric as opposed to sort of this bolt-on that you might put in as a separate tool. That never really made any sense to me from the outset, and it definitely doesn't make sense to me anymore. It should be integrated. But now what I think is perhaps a third point, maybe the most interesting, is that UBA now has to focus on a very different type of behavior, and that's the behavior of AI agents. We never really thought about that before. I mean, it might sound kind of crazy, like we're going to watch robots and workloads and agents and determine if they're doing something weird. But that sounds like a growth area to me. It sounds like the kind of thing that as a CISO, I'd be very interested in beginning to investigate, meaning I've deployed these agentic AI kind of workloads. They're out there doing tasks on my behalf, talking MCP to each other, the usual kind of agentic mesh that you'd see in an architecture today. And the question is, are any of these agents beginning to misbehave? It sounds like such a really cool and also, I think, very vibrant area of user behavior analytics. So I hope Gurucul and similar companies move in that area. If you want to learn something about Gurucul, I wrote a really nice report. You can download it from our website. I put an awful lot of time into the report, so I hope you'll take some time to go through it and share your thoughts back. And in the meantime, I hope you'll like and I hope you'll subscribe to our channel. And I'll look forward to talking to you next time.